Hi, I'm Sherry, and this is Homeschool High School Helps Language Arts. Now, I got to talk fast. There's a lot to cover. I can get into the writing another time, but I'm going to give you the 411. But before I go any further, again, you need to do your research. You can listen to people like me talk on YouTube. You can talk to friends. But you are the one that needs to get in there and do the research. I'm going to put the card up there on some books I've used. There's plenty more out there, but you need to get them, you need to read them, you need to take notes, and these people have dedicated much of their life to creating these books for you to use, so use them. And be sure to, give yourself some grace and know that the first time through high school it's going to be a little scary and that you may mess up a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. Your child will survive. What they don't learn in high school, they can learn down the road. Did you learn everything in high school? Gosh, I hope not. So, there you go. You can break language arts down to mechanics, writing, and literature, and you can put them all together in one type of program, one type of course, or you can split them into separate things. Like English, you would focus more on the mechanics and probably the writing. Then you can have things like American literature or Brit Lit or things like that. Now you can get obviously more creative with your titles, but don't be too ridiculous so that a college person would know, what you're talking about. So again, they cover that all in those books. This is just a quick, hey, language arts, don't be afraid of it. All right, mechanics, that includes spelling, vocabulary, sentence structure, punctuation, etc. And you may be saying, mechanics in high school? Yeah. If you have a person coming from public or private school, and a lot of homeschool children too, they're going to have gaps, and this is a great time to spend focusing on those things. Don't beat a dead horse here, people. If they already understand punctuation and good sentence structure, don't waste your time or their time going over that. Just focus in on the things that they need a little help with. If you have a child like me who has dyslexia, then yeah, you're going to have to spend some more time on the mechanics because that's just an unfortunate part of it. And that's okay. That's the beauty of it. If it takes me 4 years to work on it with this kid, it takes me 4 years. I want my kids to have a good foundation in their native language, which of course is English. So, mechanics. Then you have the literature part. Now here's where you can get really creative. I do recommend that you do full books. Please do not spend the entire high school years just giving them a couple paragraphs out of books. That's just silly. First of all, you don't get the whole richness of the story, but that's not really literature. That's just paragraphing. So aim for maybe 2 to 4 literature books per semester. 2 is good. You may have a prolific reader, 4, 6, that's okay. The key here is to not be a killjoy when it comes to the literature. Please, please, please do not expect your child to do a book report or an essay or a this type of paper or that type of paper around a story. It's silly. First of all, you'll nitpick it to death and you'll make them hate it, and you'll begrudge yourself and burn yourself out too, but it's just not cool, people. If I can think of one thing to advise you on, that would be it. Read a book. You have them narrate to you. Hey, what's going on in your story now? Even if you know. If you're reading to them, that's another thing. I highly recommend you read a lot of the books to your students. I don't care if they're 2 or 18. It's always good to hear somebody else reading. And if you can't do it, there's always the books on tape or whatever too. So like say you're doing two books. You're going to do The Great Gatsby and another selection. You know what? Then fine. You can talk about some of the things going on in the story. You can certainly talk about character development. Birds. You can talk, oh no, plane. I've had trucks, planes, trains, automobiles zipping through. I just can't wait. Oh well, peeps, this is what happens when you film on the front porch. Yeah, but don't have them doing book reports and essays for everything. That's just silly. You may choose just one a year. Hey, great, whatever. But you can definitely spend time, slow it down if they need to understand a concept in a book a little bit. Sometimes things come up, called life, and you might have to put the book on hold, and that's okay. If you get 3 done a year, whatever. Now, we are very literature heavy based, especially for our history. So here's another thing you can do. Because I do so many books in history, I can carry some of the good ones over to credit in his lit. So there you go. That's an idea. Like if we're doing certain books on World War I and World War II, I can certainly carry those into American Lit and stuff like that. So, all right. So you can cross-reference history and science and geography. We did a around the world geography program. Took us 2 years to get through, and we were reading novels and books about different people in different countries, and there were stories, and they were great, and I could easily cross-reference those into that as well. If you're using programs like Sunlight or Beautiful Feet or Heart of Dakota or My Father's World, then you're literature-based and you can cross-reference, okay? Did I say that enough? You can cross-reference people. Now, sure, you can choose some typical literature things like The Secret Garden or, like I said, The Great Gatsby. It just happens to be some things coming into my mind here. And you can use them and focus in on there. That's fine. Now let me go back real fast. For mechanics, we have used Spelling Power, Winston Grammar, different punctuation books, comprehension books, stuff like that. For literature, we use actual literature, and like I said, cross-referencing from different programs. But I will also throw in there books that are discussed and talked about through Learning Language Arts through Literature. I've talked about this program before. They have good junior high programs, and then they have Brit and American, and I think a new lit out for high school, and you just follow the program in there. Do you have to do everything in there? No. Usually I just go in there and use it for reference so I know what's going on and I can ask a few questions. And then there's some writing assignments and things like that in there too. And then speaking of writing, you have writing, and it's part of your language arts. And so you can work on some of those things, but please, 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 please don't overdo that. I did not require too much writing from my high schoolers, just enough. And they did quite well in college. I know, fancy that, right? If we didn't know something, we got a book on how to write it, and we learned through the process of trial and error. I'd actually kind of helped my kids the first couple of years, well, the first year that they were in college, and they would, do their research and do their first or second draft, and then I'd go through and say things like, well, do you need to beef this up? How can you say that clearer? And help them fine tune it. So by the time they were done, they had a pretty good paper, and they kind of learned the process and knew what they had to do. But yes, writing, if you have a college-bound student, they should know the two different types, MLA and, it's out of my head. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, but, and you know what, let's face it, most people, if they're going to college, are going to go into some type of form of like business or medical or something where they need to just be able to really put together a quick synopsis of whatever's going on. The doctors have to write on the charts just a quick rundown. They don't need to write a novella. They don't need to write a 16-page essay on what's going on with their patient. If they're in business, they should know how to do business writing. Maybe they are going to go into research like my daughter, and so she has to be able to come up with a quick rundown of what her clients are looking for and what they found and all that kind of stuff. My husband does where he has to write reports on the clients, and he has to do a rundown on what he encountered during the visit or whatever. So knowing how to do that is good. You might get somebody who's going completely business, and they should know how to do business letters. They should know how to do presentations, things like that. That's all writing, people. So keep that in mind. Just don't keep it just to college-bound, because I'm sure a lot of people aren't doing that. I have 2 college-bound students who did college, one who's still on the fence, she doesn't know yet, and one who's considering trade school. So you kind of tailor it to what they need. Yeah. Alrighty, so you can cross-reference different subjects into your grade for literature. You can title it, okay, so we're doing we did a lot of medieval. My son I can almost put down like medieval literature as one of his courses and talk about some of the things we covered if somebody's questioning that. But they would understand that on a transcript. So we use LLATL and other programs from places like Beautiful Feet Books, Sunlight, Heart of Dakota, My Father's World, and there's many others out there. And you know what, people, if this is your first time on the rodeo circuit here with a high schooler, do yourself a favor. get a program. It's not the end of the world. You can buy a lot of them used. You can just do certain sections like literature and then just kind of follow it. You don't have to be at 100%, but that way it gives you kind of a good thing to follow. You kind of get an idea of how this kind of works out, how you can grade it. They discuss it in all of those programs, how to do it. And it gives you a good, solid foundation. And then once you get a little more gutsy and kind of like been doing it forever like me, like, oh, yep, let's just do that. We can throw that in there. Yeah, no problem. And it just becomes second nature. So give yourself a break. You know, follow a little bit of a program if you want. There's a variety of expensive to not so expensive ones out there. You can use literature guides, those like Spark Notes and things like that as well. You can go online. There's all kinds of literature programs out there that just discuss one book, and you can do that as well. And like I said, using a program, it helps you save time and frustration and burnout, and it also helps you kind of get your feet wet and know what you're doing and how to, you know, pull together a transcript and stuff like that. And like I said, then you can get crazy like me and pull together all your own stuff, because it's what you do when you've done it for so long. You just go a little cuckoo and you do things you never thought you would. Okay, so you're using, excuse me, you're using literature, actual literature, read the books. Then you're doing some mechanics, and then you can do some writing, and you can pull it all into one type of course. And just don't overdo it with the writing. I can't stress that enough. Don't be a killjoy. Don't talk a book to death. Don't have them write things to death. Now, I know I'm sure there's people going to be, oh, that's the worst advice ever. Well, look, you know what? I've seen a lot of people who have done that with their kids, and it's killed their creativity. I think middle of the road is probably the best way to shoot. And like I said, 2 of my kids went to college, and one of them is a marketing researcher. So, yeah. So you know what? You won't mess up your kids, and if they don't learn it in high school, they'll figure it out when the time comes. You know, don't stress it. Don't stress it. So overall, know the general direction of your student. I say this in every video. Then if you know they're college bound, look at what the colleges are expecting of their incoming freshmen. They should know how to write the different type of papers that are going to be required. And then you should also spend some time on the business writing, like I said, regardless. If they're going into the military, the workforce, they're unsure, general, trade school, just stick to the middle of the road, because this is what you use every day is your language, and you should have the ability to be able to communicate and read and understand and comprehend. So that's the best advice I can give you on all of that. It's not super in-depth, but it's definitely a, hey, you should know these things. Questions or comments, leave them down below. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. For the writing, we are going to be doing the 1-year adventure novel. I have a video on that. Put it up there for you, where the student watches DVDs with Daniel Schwabeyer, and then they create their own novel, and at the end of the year they pull it all together. So that's a huge project, and you know, you can definitely walk away knowing how to do something like that, and I think it's a great experience. Let's face it, most of us are not going to be Pulitzer Prizers. That's okay. Caldecott winners, that's okay. But, you know, hey, it's a fun experience. So once we're done with that, I'll obviously do a review on that. But one child has done most of it, and she really enjoyed it. She just never had time to finish it. Another thing real fast, I only have a minute. Keep it fun. Just because they're in high school does not mean that you have to make it some drudgery, like chain gang type of like work ethic here. Keep it fun. For example, in your writing program, you can say, your Uncle Louie just left you his pizzeria, except it's a failing business. You need to get out there and advertise. You need to create a new menu. You need to do some PR work. How would you pull this all together to make somebody want to come and spend their hard-earned money at that restaurant? So they're doing writing, they're doing research, they're doing advertising, they're doing all that kind of things like that. And that's a fun project, and it's something that's light, and yet they're learning. So it doesn't always have to be super serial, people. Come on. And that's our word for serious around here, super serial. Anyway, questions or comments, leave them down below. I have just a couple seconds. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.